The Galactic Council had seen many things in their thousand-year history. They had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, mediated disputes between species that communicated through pheromones and electromagnetic pulses, and once spent 3 decades negotiating a peace treaty written entirely in mathematical equations, but nothing had prepared them for what emerged from the human transport ship Serenity's gift. Ambassador Thexaval of the crystalline hegemony checked his translation matrix twice as the airlock cycled open. The humans had sent their most experienced negotiator, according to the transmission. Someone with decades of conflict resolution experience and an unparalleled ability to bring opposing sides together. The Council had expected a battle-hardened diplomat, perhaps a former military commander with scars and medals. Instead, a small elderly human woman stepped onto the station, carrying what appeared to be a wicker basket, and wearing something, the translation software unhelpfully labeled as a cardigan. Behind her walked a massive human male in military dress, his chest decorated with enough medals to stock a small armory, but he was clearly her subordinate. "Hello, dears," the woman said, her voice warm as she approached the assembled representatives of 12 star systems. "I'm Margaret Chen, but you can call me Grandma Maggie. I brought snickerdoodles." The Veltar representative, a 7-foot-tall insectoid with mandibles that could crack steel, tilted his head in confusion. "What are snickerdoodles?" "Cookies, sweetheart, made them fresh this morning on the ship." She opened her basket, revealing rows of golden-brown circles that emanated an aroma, unlike anything in the station's recycled air. "Now, where should we sit? I find everything goes better with a nice chat and something sweet." Admiral Harrison, the human military officer, stepped forward with barely concealed embarrassment. "What Ambassador Chen means is—" "I mean exactly what I said, Michael," Maggie interrupted, somehow making a gentle correction sound like a command that could move fleets. "These beings have been arguing for 6 months over mining rights in the Kepler cluster. What they need isn't more posturing. They need to remember they're all people trying to feed their families." The Zephyrian delegate, whose species communicated, primarily through color changes in their skin, flickered through several shades of bewilderment. In all recorded history, no negotiator had ever begun diplomatic proceedings by offering baked goods. 3 hours later, the impossible was happening. The Veltar Mining Consortium and the Hegemony's exploration fleet, 2 groups who had been exchanging increasingly hostile messages for months, were seated around a table sharing cookies and actually listening to each other. Maggie had somehow gotten the Veltar to explain that their larvae required specific minerals found only in the disputed asteroids, while the crystalline beings needed the same area for energy collection to prevent their home system's sun from collapsing. "Now see, that's not competing needs," Maggie said, refilling teacups with the patience of someone who had raised 6 children and helped raise 14 grandchildren. "That's complementary timing. Harold, may I call you Harold? Your people mine in the winter cycle, yes? And Thexval, your collectors work best during the high-energy season?" The mining foreman, whose actual name was unpronounceable, but who had somehow accepted Harold, nodded slowly. "The temperature fluctuations make extraction difficult during energy peak times." "Perfect, you see. 6 months of arguing because nobody thought to ask when you needed the space, just that you needed it." She turned to Admiral Harrison. "Michael, be a dear and pull up those temporal charts we studied on the way here." The Admiral, veteran of the Centauri campaign and the defense of Europa Station, obediently activated his tablet like a schoolboy called upon in class. The holographic display showed the asteroid field's energy cycles overlaid with optimal mining windows. "Look at that," Maggie continued, pointing with a cookie. 4 months overlap where nobody needs exclusive access. That's partnership time. Harold's people can handle the heavy lifting while Thexval's energy collectors provide power for the deep core extraction. Everybody wins. Everybody eats. The Veltar delegate clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "The energy requirements for our deep bore equipment have always been challenging, and our collectors operate at only 60% efficiency without proper gravitic anchoring," Thexval admitted. "Your mining pylons could provide that stabilization." As the 2 groups began sketching out preliminary partnership agreements, the other council members watched in stunned silence. The Drakmari observer, whose species considered diplomacy a blood sport, leaned toward his aide. "How is she doing this?" he whispered. The aide, who had been monitoring the negotiations with increasing disbelief, checked his readings. "Sir, she's not using any detectable pheromone manipulation, psychic influence, or technological enhancement. She's just talking to them. Like they're people." "Yes, sir, exactly like they're people." In the adjoining chamber, Admiral Harrison stood beside the viewport, watching the human dreadnought Unconditional Love maintain its position outside the station. The ship's captain had protested the name, but Maggie had been firm. "If we're going to bring a warship to a peace talk, it should at least sound friendly." The irony wasn't lost on him. The most powerful vessel in the human fleet, bristling with weapons that could crack a moon, served as Maggie's backup plan. Not that she'd ever need it. In 40 years of military service, he'd never seen a more effective weapon than one small grandmother, with an unlimited supply of patience and homemade cookies. Back in the negotiation chamber, Maggie was mediating a dispute between the Aquatic Coalition and the Desert clans over water rights, a problem that had sparked 3 minor wars in the past century. "Now I know water seems scarce," she said, pulling out another container from her seemingly bottomless basket. "But you're thinking about it all wrong. Sarah, that's my daughter-in-law, she had the same problem with her garden. Thought she needed more water when what she really needed was better timing and cooperation." As the hours passed, the other council members began to understand. This wasn't diplomacy as they knew it. This was something uniquely human. The ability to see past political posturing and species differences to the fundamental needs underneath. Maggie didn't negotiate treaties. She helped people solve problems. By the end of the day, 6 major disputes had been resolved, 2 new trade partnerships had been established, and the Galactic Communication Network was buzzing with requests for the human grandmother to mediate other conflicts. As the delegates filed out, each carrying a small bag of leftover cookies, Thexval approached Maggie with something resembling awe. "Ambassador Chen, how did you know this would work?" Maggie smiled, packing up her empty containers. "Honey, I raised 6 kids who couldn't agree on what to watch on television. After that, getting a few star systems to share some asteroids isn't so hard." She paused at the airlock, turning back to the assembled council. "Same time next month? I'll bring chocolate chip." The galaxy had asked for a negotiator. Earth had sent something better. A reminder that at the heart of every civilization, no matter how advanced or alien, were just people trying to take care of their families. And sometimes, that's all the diplomacy the universe really needs.